Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pixelists Podcast, the podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Will, that's Blake. Today we're here to talk a little Loki, season 2.
I almost said our bread and butter, but it's not. It's our OG
That's right.
bread and butter.
True. I'm excited to dive back in real quick. Any announcements? Not really, just the normal slate of things. Critical Role this Thursday. We just recently put out our discussion on the previous episode. Discord, join it. There will be a link down below. We'll be having a watch party this Thursday. Continuing with our Calamity rewatch. Even though we finished it, we're going to be watching the campaign wrap up this Sunday. And anything else that I'm forgetting?
I do believe that's it.
Alrighty. Well, without further ado, let's just jump straight into this. I will give a really brief recap of episode 2. Blake, feel free to jump in. This is going to be very brief, so I'm
yeah, sure.
But essentially here in episode 2, we have Loki and Mobius searching for Sylvie, and that quickly runs them straight into X5. Who has seemingly abandoned his post at the TVA to relive his normal sacred timeline life as a famous movie actor. So they run into him, kind of capture him, bring him back, interrogate him. He eventually leads them to where he knows Sylvie to be in this branch timeline. Loki confronts her and, she's like just trying to live her life. Meanwhile, Mobius finds out from X5 that like he keeps insisting they need to get out of here until Mobius finally gets him to admit that there is this greater plot happening where I can't remember her name now, but one of the judges is bombing all of the branch timelines to get rid of them. So the episode ends basically with Loki, Mobius, and Sylvie kind of confronting that operation and trying to stop them. Unfortunately, they are not able to stop them, at least not completely. And the episode ends essentially with just thousands, if not more, of these timelines getting erased by these mass timeline bombings that are going off. And then Sylvie leaves once again to return back to her timeline. Did I leave anything out there, really?
No, I think they also get a ping on Renslayer's location as well.
That's right.
So that seems to be what maybe the next step will be about.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, that was episode 2 in a nutshell. I guess first and foremost, what'd you think about this one? A little mid-tier?
It's a little bit. It was, I mean, here's what I'll say is Loki in general is like boom.
Yeah.
So like even like this action is still good television. I still really enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed the episode. It felt clunkier and not as tight as previous episodes.
Yeah.
For like a 6-episode story. Season 1, I feel like every episode was just very tightly written, and this one felt a lot looser for me. So
yeah, I agree. Like, and did we find out that it is 6?
Yes.
Again? Okay.
Yes. 6 episodes. How about you? Yeah.
I agree with your assessment. I would probably still give it in terms of the, binary. Well, I guess not binary because you chose the middle option, but I think I would still give it a thumbs up. But I completely agree that this one was a little clunky at times. It felt like maybe there were a couple scenes missing or something. Like,
yes,
the whole storyline felt really rushed. Like I was very surprised to see like the whole bombing thing. Like, oh, this is the plot, and then it was like immediately like it happened, and that we're moving on. Like it was all very quick.
There was a lot that, for the sake of I guess the progression of the story, they skipped a lot of detail. Like it needed some room to breathe, because it was like the judge is gonna bomb the timelines. All right, let's go stop her, and then like they're there, and then we stopped her.
Right.
it was very fast.
Yeah.
I will say the acting I thought was great. The dialogue between a couple of the characters was really, really good. So like, I mean, the acting's there. It's just,
Yeah.
It almost feels like there's a lot happening that, I don't know. It moved very quickly for an episode.
Yeah, agreed. That was my main gripe with it. I'm hoping that was kind of, especially since it is 6 episodes, like maybe that just kind of needed to get out of the way for like the rest to kind of play out. So I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt right now. Like I said, I still gave it a thumbs up. I still enjoyed it because, like you said, the acting was great. The cinematography has just been great. I have more to say about that as we, move on today. But yeah, just a little bit clunky with that storyline.
I liked the guy who played X5.
Yeah.
But even for him, I felt like we had missed a couple of scenes in the sense.
Yeah,
I
like
mean, who
the
knows?
very start of them, like,
Yeah,
like how did they know to go like find him? Had he been like missing or
right.
something?
And then him abandoning his posts, like,
Yeah.
it wasn't like the previous episode. He was like they did include in the previously thing of him being like, this changes everything. And then the judge and him have like this weird,
Yeah.
where it's like
Yeah.
it changes nothing. He's like, okay. But then he abandoned his post. And so, yeah, it was like, well, wait a second. What's happening with this character? Now,
Yeah.
once I was able to move past that, I was like, I really like this character. I really liked the actor and I liked, the interrogation scenes, but yeah, another example of where I felt like some scenes were missing.
Yeah, it felt like we needed like one scene at the very beginning to kind of explain that, and then just more room for the bomb plot to breathe. But yeah, totally agree. Now, even though it was rushed, I do feel like I can understand where that story is going to play into the larger one, especially given this kind of dilemma is not the right word, but that Mobius is facing on like kind of ignoring the fact that he had a previous life. I feel like the fact that Brad is kind of like rejected the TVA to go back to his previous life is kind of going to play into that overarching like narrative this season. Not that it'll like come back up, but just that's like a Mobius is witnessing like someone else do that, So I feel like that's going to play in his mind. But yeah, I really like that guy too. He kind of reminded me of a young Nathan Fillion a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Sorry, Nathan, that we called you old.
Yeah.
Seasoned.
Yeah, seasoned. I like that. But so those aside, I'm not trying to be negative or anything, but those aside, I really enjoyed the episode. There's some really cool, or not cool, there's some really like breathable moments in contrast to those things being so rushed. Like the scene where Mobius and Loki are eating the pie and discussing. I really liked that because I liked the I liked the duality in how they looked at that, because Loki was like, oh yeah, like you're avoiding looking into it because what if it's bad? Because like Loki's real life, if we can call it that, was bad. He always lost. He always like got knocked down. But Mobius is like, no, like if it was bad, that would be great because now I'm living a much better life. Like I'm worried that it's going to be good. And that's like, didn't even cross Loki's mind. So I just like really liked that like character study between those two.
Yeah, it was vibes of Hunter B15. Is that her name? B.
That's the lady Hunter.
Yeah. Her seeing the image of her life and saying, I was happy, or I looked happy. That's what it kind of reminded me of. But I'm actually glad you brought up this scene, by the way, because this scene gave me a Portal vibe of like, do as you're told and get cake. Like, it was odd to me that there was this room entirely dedicated to pie. And the key lime pie was also very green, like bright green. And so I was kind of like, what's going on here? Is this some kind of weird, I don't know, anything like, obviously it's not like wiping their memory, but I don't know, like what's going on with this room is what I was wondering of how odd it is. You have an entire room for key lime pie.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up too. It's very strange because not only all of that, but also like the scene, I just rewatched this before we started, but the scene is like right after they first interrogate Brad and like Mobius slaps him and kind of loses his cool. And it's just them like walking is the next scene. And like they go down a
Mhm.
staircase and like go down this long hall and they arrive in the pie room and Mobius is like, where are we? Like I was following you. And Loki was like, no, I was literally behind you. I was following
Mhm.
you. So like neither of them know where they are and they weren't like intentionally going there, but like just downstairs and through random hallways, they arrived there. Um, Very strange. And then there's like a poster on the wall that said, I think it said like you earn tokens, and like the token is what you exchange for the piece of pie. The memory thing you just said, I didn't think about that, but that's really interesting. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily think the pie like erases your memory, but it definitely feels like similar to episode 1 where Mobius like instinctually found his way to OBs, like maybe the
Mhm.
same thing's happening here. Um
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it
like
definitely
something
feels like,
subconscious.
yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like if not literally like a memory wipe, like there's something with this pie that like I don't know if it like manipulates you emotionally or something, but it's very weird. And I feel like it's so weird that it couldn't just be like purely TVA aesthetics,
Yeah.
for,
I
in
think the
terms of
fact
like the cinematography.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned episode 1 of him, sort of intrinsically knowing what buttons to press to get down to Obi's room. It makes me wonder, like, did he and Renslayer, like, have a date here or, like, share
Mm,
when he was really upset? Like, is this, like, where he, like, unwound and he's just, like, subconsciously, this is where he's going?
dang.
Um,
Yeah.
so it does seem too coincidental to be nothing, though.
Yeah, but I was definitely, that was one of the main things I wanted to talk about. And I don't really have any good guesses or anything, but it definitely stood out to me. And it's kind of a good segue, because the pie room is an example of what I'm about to say. But I noticed there was definitely like this thematic use of color throughout the episode, where like orange was like violence, like anger, like impulsiveness. Like every time the TVA and the bombs and the doors and the interrogation room where they were going to torture B5, like
Mhm.
all of that was orange. And then like the pie room was green.
Mhm.
OB is green and his room is green. And it's like
Right.
when things are like calm and like knowledgeable and like, you know, I don't know. So it felt really intentional. And this is where I'm like Pepe Sylvia maybe reaching a little bit, but I noticed also Loki is wearing like the green palette. It's not
Mhm.
exactly green, but like in his TVA outfit, like
Right.
kind of being the hero sort of is more associated with the green. um, and then Sylvie, when they go talk to her, her McDonald's uniform is orange, but she's wearing like a green coat over it. So I was like, oh, she's
Mm.
kind of like wearing this facade of the green, like gonna live this
Yeah.
normal life, but really she's still orange underneath that.
I love that. That's a
No,
great pickup, dude.
no, I
Look
don't
at you,
know.
man.
That's my what was what was our film is lit teacher's name? Do you remember her?
I never took it,
Oh
so I
man.
don't know.
We always used to make fun of her because she would like point out the most obtuse things. And we were like, that's definitely not what that means. But anyway, she would be proud.
Yeah. She's like, "I taught you well." It will be cool, like, in retrospect to see, like, the things that are more I mean, I think it's what makes a great show, right? It's like and I'm not talking about just, like, Easter eggs, but, like, little thematic details like that, I think are really interesting that aren't necessarily, like, plot related, but they add a depth to just the show in general,
Yeah.
right? So, the only like issue though with the theory is that Loki, his color is green,
Right.
and all of his moves are green. Um, I think of even kind of like the cheesy like handhold with Sylvie, where they like grabbed hands and like,
Yeah.
green smoke. So like it definitely feels like there's something there, but I don't know if it's necessarily green is good. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't
That was
know.
just like a
You know.
simplistic,
Yeah.
but like they felt opposed, regard like whatever each of them means.
Yes. And that's an interesting way to put it for sure. Because it does seem like there is an interesting, also just in terms of opposition, an interesting energy around if Sylvie, we know Sylvie like through and through feels like the TVA is, I think the phrasing she uses like it's rotten, like this is what happens, like see. And then Loki is really like team salvage the TVA because we need it to stop ultimately Kang, he who remains. And I don't know, it's interesting. I kind of wonder if Green is like that kind of original let the timelines be the timelines, and not even so much the color green, but even just like Sylvie like is purely that versus it's basically the plot tension that got set up in the finale, just continuing honestly. But I do wonder, what's interesting is I thought this would be the mechanism that got Sylvie involved that would then lead to that scene in episode 1, but she's now left to go back to her vacation home, oddly enough. So, which I guess not every timeline got bombed, just a bunch of them.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. It just so happens that hers was okay, I guess. Because I did notice on like the screen with all the timelines, they're all like getting deleted, but there were like a few prominent ones still within the boundaries that were there. So,
well, the timelines also were fragmented, right? Like, were there like pieces of them like on the picture?
I think so, but I don't know. I would need to go back and watch. I don't know if that was just like it was animating it getting destroyed. So like maybe the pieces would eventually go away as well. But if there were just like rogue pieces out there, that's really interesting.
Well, I mean, because I thought the impression I got from the finale was that the timelines were creating so fast that there was no way to actually stop them.
Yeah.
And what's the thing called? Like when it gets to a certain point, it like can't be pruned anymore or something.
Yeah.
From like the first season. Like,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
A big time component. Well, it's been a lot of time since these timelines started branching up, and yet this concept hasn't come up. So I don't know. I don't think they're retconning it, but I do wonder if the judge is pruning these timelines, even ignorant, or not even ignorant, but just like forget the terminal point. We just got to prune all these things, and that's why I was wondering if these timelines, if the reason they look kind of like fragmented and broken is maybe because it isn't like a clean. She hasn't done it like in a clean way. Like it's I don't know. I don't know, honestly.
That would make sense. Yeah. Whatever the whatever the critical mass failure thing is, I would imagine that's the same thing that like OB is still dealing with. Like,
right.
The critical overload that was happening in the finale. I guess the temporal loom is kind of how they're condensing that into like a narrative point this season. Which I guess we don't really know, like it felt dire, but I mean, I guess maybe the bombing of the timelines will help alleviate the pressure on that a bit, maybe, but we don't really know like what the time frame is on like when does that like doom us all, or not, maybe not even doom us all, but where's the point of no return for these things happening? But I guess it hasn't happened yet.
And was the plot thread that he got locked out, like his access got revoked or something?
Yeah, so he's in charge of fixing the loom or whatever, and where it was this episode was he had like the incorrect temporal aura to like get authorization to do what he was trying to do, which now they're looking for Miss Minutes, I think, because either they think she might have it or she could at least get around it, I guess is the assumption.
Yeah, okay. I guess that makes sense.
I mean, clearly, so the Kang that Miss Minutes was working for is dead. But I mean, I get she was like his right-hand man.
Why do we think that?
Well, because at the end of season 1 they killed him, right?
But they didn't kill Miss Minutes.
Right. The Kang she was working with died.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, I misheard you.
Yeah. But clearly she was like right-hand man, so like maybe she knows as much or at least a lot more than she either knows as much as Kang or at least a vast amount more than our main characters. So like, is she off executing his wishes? Is she off like on her own rogue mission? Is she working with Renslayer? Very curious to see, like,
Well, we know, I think all three of these parties are connected in collaboration.
yeah,
We know that in the comics, Renslayer and Kang are romantically involved.
yeah,
So it seems to and we heard the recording for episode 1. Now, was that He Who Remains that was communicating with her, or was that a different Kang? Like,
yeah,
I'm wondering how they're gonna navigate and kind of cleanly, write all of this out, I guess.
yeah,
But yeah, I would assume Renslayer's off with Miss Minutes, and whatever they did to kill He Who Remains that has upset the timelines and the loom that Obi is trying to fix, I'm assuming that there's a Kang out there, or in the very least a Miss Minutes, that doesn't want to see that happen. Who's sort of like, better reject your access to this thing because I don't want you to fix that.
yeah.
To what ends, though? I mean, I don't know. Part of me kind of wonders if season 2 is like a setup for like a certain Marvel film or something. Or if this is going to be like a contained story. So,
I mean, I think it's
don't really know.
definitely set up. Not to say that it won't have its own like contained story arc, but we know that the next Avengers movies that are coming are Kang Dynasty and then Secret Wars. So I feel like this, at the very least, the impacts of this are going to like directly tie into those things, if not narratively directly tie into them. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna like confuse myself if I dig too much into this. But if Miss Minutes was working with He Who Remains, which she was,
Mhm.
and then he Who Remains offered, you can either like kill me and all
Mhm.
chaos is gonna break loose, or you can take my place, right? Wasn't that the
Mhm.
now in the take my place offer? I wonder if he thought he was dying, or like what was he gonna go do?
Maybe he was bored.
Well, if Miss Minutes was like on board with that plan, then I wonder, then if she's working actively against the TVA now, it's almost like she was working against his plan, unless he was like, "Hey, if they kill me, go help the next me." And, like, maybe he said something like that, and so that's why she's doing that. But I'm just curious, like, because they're all different variants, right? So like, just because she was loyal to He Who Remains doesn't necessarily mean she's going to be loyal to the next random Kang that
Mhm.
comes trying to take over, right? But maybe she would be. I don't know.
Well, it's tough. I don't know. I'm thinking about like the early version of the TVA that had like the statue of Kang.
Yeah, true.
The question is, was that He Who Remains like over the years and he like changed his management strategy,
Right.
or was that a different Kang and she's
Mm.
just like hardwired, programmed, like I support Kang, and like, oh, this one died, time to go find another one, and she just went to the nearest one. I mean, I don't know. Um, we know they're working together, but like it's like the caveat you gave of I'm gonna confuse myself. I'm trying to like process it too and be like, I don't even know, because we
Yeah.
know also the TVA seems to be a single timeline.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
don't know.
There aren't branches, at least that we're aware of.
And tiny potential spoiler, I didn't see Quantum Mania. Did we get confirmation that the TVA is um like a subatomic
Oh,
civilization?
no.
Okay.
It still
Okay.
could be, but that wasn't like
We
in the movie.
because we talked about before the movie came out if it could be that.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Good to know.
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm just curious, like, what is Miss Minutes? Like, she's very powerful. Like, could she
Mhm.
be a Kang variant or something? It didn't seem they probably wouldn't work together in that way. But
Yeah.
like, it almost seems kind of maybe like a the other side of the coin of OB, considering they're both like vastly knowledgeable about the TVA.
Yes.
Like, could it be an OB variant? Does OB have variants? Probably not.
Right.
I don't know why I said he probably doesn't, but I feel like he just wouldn't for some reason.
But speaking of, you can kill me or take my place. I had forgotten that Sylvie had taken his bracelet.
Right. I kind of forgot that too until we saw it this episode, right? Her
but they're looking at it on the hood of the car.
Yeah.
What does it? What was it? Was there a reference to what it was in season 1?
I think it's just like a more sophisticated like TVA temp pad, like the master version is. I don't know if that's right, but that was like my interpretation of what it was.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I wonder what she's doing with that then.
I guess she's using that to hop between when she needs to. I was also wondering if it was maybe part of the reason why she was able to stay so hidden. Like maybe his is better at, not pinging the systems when it's used compared to like a normal TVA one. And we kind of already left this point. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, was she able to stay that hidden? Because it sounds like X5 found her.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. Is like, how did X5 find her? That was like another. Like it seemed like a scene was missing. There was some line about like him being a great hunter. So like I guess we're just supposed to assume he's so great he found her.
Yeah.
And this was one thing I was wondering. It didn't like he knew exactly where she was, and it was in a different timeline. Like it wasn't in the sacred timeline where he was, living his life as an actor. When the episode was first starting, I expected a certain thing to happen that never happened. I expected him to like have found her and them to have some sort of confrontation and her to have been like, hey, why don't you just like you're an actor, like just go live your life, I'll live my life, let's just both like leave each other alone. Like I thought like it was going to be Sylvie that like either manipulated him or just straight up like convinced him that's what he should do. But that wasn't the case. He just seemingly found her and then was like, I'm going to go do my own thing.
That scene would have definitely made it for me. That would have definitely been a good fill in for me. Where he has a change of heart, goes to sacred timeline, becomes an actor, and we understand why he's there.
Yeah.
Definitely that's, I think, the missing scene, which you kind of wonder like what gets left on the cutting room floor. I mean, maybe there was something like that and it was too clunky. I don't know.
And is it possible we could get any of this filled in later still? Because it like there was the weird relationship with him and the judge, and then we know the judge had this whole plot. So like, why would the judge let her like seemingly right-hand man just go live his life on the timeline? Like, why was she cool with that? Even especially since he knew the big secret plan. So like, is there any chance like this was all according to plan? Like almost like a double misdirect where like his mission was to go live his life as the actor and like, I don't know,
Yeah. And I was actually just, something I was wondering was like, are some other episodes shorter and they would like take a scene like that and put it in a later episode, but they're all about the same number of minutes.
Oh, they're all released all the time.
1 through 4, not 5 or 6. But episode 2 was 49 minutes, and of course you have like the 8 or 9 minutes of credits.
Yeah.
Episode 3 is 53 minutes. Episode 4 is 48 minutes. So yeah, and then we don't know 5 or 6. Okay, so that's probably not the case then, but who knows?
It just feels like something. It feels like another piece is missing there, and hopefully we get it. But if we don't get it, then I guess it is just a bit clunky. But I do expect we like with them bringing in a new actor to play X5, and in the first 2 episodes already giving him that much like to chew on. I have to imagine that like that's not it. I feel like X5 is gonna keep playing a role this season. Maybe that's copium, but if so, maybe some of these things will, get pieced together slightly better.
Yeah. Yeah. So Sylvie's pieced out. She's back to her timeline. Clearly something is going to bring her back in the fold. And then I kind of wonder like what's next for the TVA. They have the ping on Renslayer, but I think it's B15. Let me get actually her actual. Make sure I have the right name. It is B15. You know, I think she said something like billions of people were just like killed.
Trillions, really, right? Because I mean,
Yeah,
and that's just with if Earth is under consideration. But if you imagine like each timeline is the whole universe, which it
right.
is, right? Then probably whatever is beyond zillions or whatever, like and almost an
Right.
infinite amount of life.
Right. Yeah.
Which
So yeah, I guess Renslayer is the next direction for them.
yeah, which I mean, like you said in the comics, she had a romantic relationship with Kang. Like we've seen in the show, in the audio recording, you know, he calls her like he couldn't have done it without her. Like, remind me, in season 1, she didn't find out any of these things, right? Like she, along with everyone else, kind of found out what was going on with the TVA, but like she didn't ever on screen have any interactions with Kang or anything, right?
Correct. I don't know if she also found out so much as she already knew all of these things, which she may or may not have. We don't know.
Right. We just we saw her old life, right, where she was a teacher. Did
Right.
she see that, or did other people see that of her?
I feel like the other hunters saw that, but I wonder if they were tracking her and knew she had gone there.
Yeah. Okay. Now I think I need to rewatch some of season 1 because I think you're right. We don't know what she knew. Like it's possible that she knew everything the whole time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe her mind was never wiped and she has like always been kind of a, like Kang said, like his right hand man. If that's the case, or even if it's not, like even if she had her memory wiped, maybe she got her memories back, and so maybe that's why she's kind of like off trying to help him again. Um, a lot of interesting little mystery boxes.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the wiki to see, because I feel like I need to go back and watch season 1.
Wonder if Miss Minutes could be Renslayer somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we don't really know. I guess we don't really know what she knows other than she knows enough to keep Mobius in the dark, because that was like the running thread of season 1. Like
Right.
maybe it was like we're all variants. It could have been that, or it could have been something much more sinister. Sinister is maybe not the right word, but deliberately hiding the existence of Kang. You know, I don't know.
Well, it would make sense. It doesn't have to be the case, but it would make sense that she knew everything the whole time and was just like one of his operators on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we're chasing her down next. Be interesting to see what happens there. But I'm kind of I'm interested to see what's going on with him, because that feels like that's definitely going to get explored. Like we're probably going to find out what his real life was.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's meaningful in any real way. Like is it just a normal life, you know? And so that's sad, and like, you know, he has a wife and kids or something, and so that's that aspect, or is there like, is he special, or is there something meaningful about, you know,
Yeah.
where
he was
came
Tony
from?
Stark. So we got a nice little Avengers reference too, by the way, from Loki.
Yeah.
I forgot about. So okay.
And one other
what else?
one other thing that I wanted to mention at least was going back to OB, which we talked about a lot in episode 1, about like what he is and like what's going on, how he seems to be like, he literally wrote the book on everything there, is seemingly had not had his memory wiped, and is seemingly by some means or another, like I don't know if we're talking like magic spells or like what we're talking, but is like seemingly being kept out of like the collective consciousness of everyone else. Like no one ever goes and visits him, yada yada yada. Well, again, he shows his expertise. They keep bringing up the book that he wrote. Like they just keep hammering that point about like how he knows and wrote everything here. But Casey, the
Mhm.
I don't know how to describe him, but the TVA worker Casey,
Yeah. Analyst.
the analyst, yeah, he like read the whole book, loves the whole book, and knows OB. And OB's picture is in the book, as we found out. So it's not as if like it's I don't know. One, it's weird that like Kang would allow OB to like have authorship over something like that, and then on top of that, like have his picture in there. So Casey knows OB. Like he knew the name OB, was familiar with that person, but had no idea that they were like still alive and like literally worked three fleet floors down. Like he's like, "Oh, can I get your autograph?" Like he reveres this guy, and yet he has never in the thousands of years he's worked there gone to visit him. Like he must not have known, you know?
Yeah,
Like
there's
what's going
definitely
on that they're keeping this
yeah,
guy like such a secret?
there's definitely like a much stronger connection to our theory from episode 1 of like for you guys who didn't maybe see that our discussion, like, is this guy a deity? Is he like a literal demigod? Like, what is making this character so special that clearly couldn't be killed? Doesn't seem to have been mind wiped, or maybe he has been. I'm not sure, but has at least been secluded to the ignorance of everyone who works there, who would very much be interested in connecting with him.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem to be aware of that. You know, he
Yeah,
just thinks no
or
one comes to visit him, you know?
yeah, yeah, right, or bothered by the fact that you know I literally wrote the book and I don't even know any of these people
Yeah.
because it's a big organization. I mean, X5 mentioned how he was afraid of Sylvie because Sylvie had killed 400 hunters, which I was
Right.
like, wow, this is a big. I mean, we've seen like the cityscape, like we know it's a big
Yeah.
area, but yeah, this guy's been living in seclusion in a massive time metropolis. Like, Obi, why is this not a red flag to you?
Yeah. I so I just the mystery continues with him. I you know, could he be he who remains, which is the real he who remains, which is something we talked about. But
Right.
the weirdest part is maybe he just doesn't care. Like maybe like if he is some ultra powerful being, like maybe he's not concerned with like
Hmm.
the fact that no one comes to visit him or whatever. But it's just weird that like if he is so powerful that he like could not be displaced
Hmm.
or mind wiped or something, like how on earth did they convince him to just stay down in that basement? You
Yeah.
know?
Just don't come up, okay? Nothing's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just such a good dude. It's like, hey man, just please don't come up. All right, man, I won't. 800 years later, he's like a dog, basically. You know, dogs would just like wait at the door until you come back.
Yeah.
So anyway, also I had this other random thought about. While I was just looking on the wiki here, it reminded me of the void that they went to in season 1. So like these timelines aren't like disintegrated; they're all sent to the void. So like I'm just imagining like living in the void, like
Oh
one of these
yeah.
like people, and then just like millions and billions of people like dropping in, or like vestiges of those timelines dropping in.
True.
Because you go to the void when you're branched, right? Like you
Yeah, I
don't
think
die.
so. Yeah, I mean,
So yeah, I mean it's a bit jarring.
yeah, and they all just get brutally destroyed by Eliath.
Yeah, that's right, Eliath. That's the name.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, what else? Anything else for the set?
Um, I don't I don't think so. Um, let me quickly look at the old notes. um, also, there's been a lot of well, not a lot, but there's been some emphasis on the McDonald's guy. And I'm wondering, is that just like,
The kid?
yeah, Like, because in episode 1 in the end credit scene, it was just kind of like a
Yeah.
funny scene. But then we spent a lot of time there today, and then it wasn't the post credit scene, but it was the final scene of this next episode where she's laying on her car and he comes out there. Which again,
Yeah.
like, it doesn't
Huh.
have to be anything, but there's just been like,
Yeah.
for what I
Interesting.
originally thought was just kind of like a quick bit. There's been time spent there. Which I have no theories or guesses as to what that could be, but maybe he'll die and that'll be like a call to action for Sylvie, like this one like pure
Yeah.
like guy that's been really nice to her and just works, and his
Yeah.
mom comes and picks him up. Like if he dies, maybe that's like what sets her off or something.
Or maybe they fall in love. It's like Cougar Town. So
Well, yeah, they fall in love and then Loki kills him because he's jealous.
yeah.
There we go. We figured it
So,
out.
yeah.
Um, but no, I think that was pretty much my thoughts for this one.
I think the show new episode's tonight. Is that right?
I remember I said that last week, but I think I was wrong. So I think it's Wednesday night, aka Thursday.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
But last week I did say Tuesday night, aka Wednesday, but I think it's
Yeah.
Wednesday,
Okay.
aka Thursday.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
I
Cool.
don't know.
You're right. It's Thursday.
Okay.
It's Thursday. Yeah.
So like 2 a.m. tonight for any
Yeah.
night owls.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I mean, because don't have long to wait then.
True.
Which
Okay.
dang, only 6 episodes. So after tomorrow, we'll be halfway through.
Halfway done.
Hmm.
And then do we know if there's a season 3?
They haven't like said that. I hope there, I mean, I hope there is. I know it maybe is a little preemptive to say, but I hope there is because I really liked this show. It's the first. We talked about this last time, but a lot of the Marvel stuff has been a little bit subpar recently.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they also, I mean, we know from what is it? Daredevil. I mean, we know they're cleaning house a little bit. So
yeah, which I think that's actually hopefully a good thing. Like I was actually excited about that news because you know how much I love Charlie Cox and Daredevil. So like
Mhm.
I'm glad that they didn't just put out like a subpar product and they were like, let's start over. So
Yeah.
hopefully
right.
they're getting things on track over there.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in today. Let us know what you thought of this episode and your theories as well. And definitely check out our Discord where we talk about all of this stuff. And we'll be back soon to talk about episode 3.
We shall indeed. Alrighty, y'all. Well, until
See
next
ya.
time. Bye.